Hello, and welcome once again to Neurologic. I'm your host, Leo Jones. Too often, autistic voices and perspectives are dismissed, ignored, or admonished in our world, especially when we try to assert ourselves in matters of policy, governance, and culture. Frequently in news stories, articles, and social media posts, we are forced to take a back seat, as the focus is often on parents, siblings, relatives, friends, or even coworkers and classmates. Countering that chronically persistent narrative is the Unashamed Voices of Autism project, where autistic adults and adolescents have an open mic to broadcast their own story to the autism community and can safely describe to others what autism is like from their own perspective. Joining me today to discuss this rapidly growing project is Alison Knight, creator, who started Unashamed Voices of Autism last September and has invited Neurologic to participate in the Be Louder and Be Prouder Talent Quirk Show this week. Welcome, Alison.
Hello, Leo.
So let's start off by kind of telling me your own story. When were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed when I was like 3 or 4, 1994. And what was happening was I have an older brother who is neurotypical, and they noticed a lot of unique quirks that I had that he didn't have, such as I struggled with eye contact, and I struggled with opening doors, my fine motor skills and all that. And they were like, this is really interesting and all that. And then they just got my brain scanned, and they said, okay, well, she's definitely unique. And it was like, this is what it is.
So they actually did a brain scan to determine your diagnosis?
Yeah.
So what was that experience kind of like for you? Because you said they just said this is what it is, but when they informed you of it, or were you actually told when you were a kid?
They might have informed me, but like I was told as a kid, when I was told as a kid, I was like, look, you have Asperger's, because that's what I was told at the time. And they said, basically, my parents said, like, you're going to work a little bit harder than everyone else who's not, have Asperger's to equal up to them. It's because you're going to have struggle more and you're going to have to work harder to equal up to them in many aspects. But you're also going to have other talents that they probably might not even see or recognize, but you may be well aware of, and that other people, like you will be well aware of. But, you might have to work just as hard as everyone else who's not like you just to equal up to them. But that's okay. That's how life is going. This is the cards you got dealt with. I'm sorry that these are the cards. I wouldn't give you these cards, obviously. I'm still learning about this as well, but for the most part, this is what it is, and we're going to help you along the way.
All right. When it comes to disclosure, do you usually tell, I'm sure you tell family and friends, but do you have sort of your own policy when it comes to telling other people?
Probably about 3 years ago, I started just being openly about it. And I was like, hey, I'm autistic. What's up? Like, it's my work. I will, in interviews and all that, in my job interviews, I say, I'm autistic. Or, if so if you have any questions about autism, feel free to ask me. But before 3 years ago, I probably was not kind of in denial a little bit of myself, where I was like, I'm not going to say I have it, but, if someone comes up and I need to, why are you asking why I'm all weird? I'll tell you that.
What changed?
I think what changed was I realized it was more of a strength to be more open about it and to be more exploratory about it as I was earning my master's degree in social work. And I noticed, they didn't really talk about autism a lot. They didn't really talk about mental ailments that much. It talked about how to diagnose someone. It talked about counseling and all that, but it didn't really dig deep enough, I thought, into the mental ailments. And I was like, I wanted to dig more into that, and I was like, look, I'm autistic, and I wish more people when I was a kid, or even as a teenager, realize, hey, this is what she's going through. You know, just instead of going with what books say. I wish more people listened to me. So I wanted to be like that for, you know, for other my colleagues. I want to be that for my colleagues and for, like, the people I also worked with, you know, my internships and all that. And then I was like, you know what? I should do this after college.
So did you have a difficult time being able to relate what you needed for accommodations and accessibility while pursuing your master's degree?
I did. So in high school, I had this teacher who I hated. Oh, I hated her with passion. But what she made me do, which I thank her for this still today, is when she was like, I was already getting accommodations in high school and all that. But what she made me do was, like, every semester in high school, from freshman to senior, every semester I had to go up to my teachers and give them this list of my accommodations and say, hey, I'm autistic. This is what my accommodations are. And this for this reason. And explain, like, I just, I'm slower at writing handwriting and all that. To me, telling teachers like that was humiliating. And I would lie to that teacher. Like, she was my paraprofessional. I would lie to her and say, oh yeah, I totally told the teachers, like, these are my, my stuff and all this. And then she'd go back to the teachers and they're like, no, she didn't. And then so she was like, okay, well, we're going to go together. You're going to be, I'm standing right next behind you and you're going to see how you do this. Now, I hated it. I really did.
So you couldn't just hand over an envelope or something. You actually had to go and tell them what you needed?
Yeah, face to face. Like, and, like, I could do it privately with just me and the teacher and all that, obviously. Not in front of other students and all that. But I couldn't just, hand the envelope and say, bye. I had to actually, work on that, which, so it was like, a self-advocating way, and I appreciate it now because now I'm able to, like, be able to communicate that to other people and not have to, like, someone else tell it them for me and explain it to someone else for me, because then, I know I get exactly what I asked for, and not hope that, someone else is translating what they think I'm asking for, and I might not get what I actually wanted. Or they think that, what's best for me, when really it's not best for me.
So kind of having that forced disclosure led you to be more open about other people in the future.
Right.
And has that affected your employment? Has that affected, socializing with other people?
I think the forced disclosure, like, it helped me able to express it to more people easier. But the times I didn't, like, there was times where, like, I worked at a nursing home as an activity assistant, and I told them, like, hey, I'm autistic. And they didn't know what autism was, nor did they care. They were just like, okay, whatever, she's unique, whatever, just, like, ignored it. And then whenever I, fine motor skills kind of struggles, they're just like, why are you so weird? And I'm like, that's part of autism. I'm sorry I didn't catch the social signal or whatever, that's just how I am. I try to explain it to them. And they're like, you're just making excuses, Allison, and, like, whatever, just rolled their eyes back in their head. They didn't try to understand it, which really frustrated me. And so then they would try to, like, these are, like, people who are, like, in a high school mentality, where there's, like, I'm going to go manipulate you and, like, get you in trouble by the boss and all that. And the boss would be like, that's your fault. It was bad company altogether. So I just left because I was being the victim and no one was trying to understand my point of view or try to understand what I was going through. No one was listening, and they used that against me.
So as your disclosure kind of evolved, or we said over the past few years, I kind of want to relay that into your current project, the Unashamed Voices of Autism project.
Right.
How did this idea begin, and when did you turn it into something tangible? What kind of prompted you to do that?
Originally, I had a blog where it was kind of like a lot of people had to have a blog about their autistic journey. I got more into it, and I realized a lot of people doing that, and I'm like, wow, there's, like, a lot of people, and it's so overwhelming how many people are sharing their stories online about their, autism, and it's like, But yet, some of them have a lot of followers and some of them don't. You know, and it's like, I really wish, you know, we can get all these people involved and hear all their stories, you know, as one. Because it's overwhelming just trying to find all these people and hearing, you know, their little aspects of their daily life and all that. I think it's really crowded, but at the same time, really dispersed that you really had to look for it. So that was, you know, a bit overwhelming and kind of frustrating at the same time. And then one of my friends who's neurotypical showed me this book called Humans of New York, and they're like, look at this. And what Humans of New York is, it's just well, now it's comes in books form, but originally it was just like a blog, and it was a person, like a photographer in New York, who would take a picture of a random person, and he would ask them, like, you know, where are you going to, or tell me something neat about you. And they'd be like, oh, I just won, like, you know, a soccer tournament, I'm just, you know, just going to go now celebrate, you know, or she'd be like, I'm a mother of 3 and I'm waiting for the subway or something, you know. It just, you know, you saw the people, how they dressed, and like how, you know, New York's just a huge city, but, you know, seeing those pictures, you made you feel more, like, you know, more human, less like an alien, like, you know, because you're so, you found, you know, relevance into their stories in some aspects, you know. And so I was like, I want to do something about that with autism, because, like, you know, I see a lot of these stories, all these blogs and all that, and I was like, I think, you know, we obviously, there's a lot of autism awareness, you know, compared to, like, something like Down syndrome right now. Like, you know, we have Autism Month, we have Autism Day, we have, like, I think there's 2 months for autism awareness.
Well, you have your April, which was
right.
declared Autism Awareness Month by
Autism Speaks.
Well, yeah, I was by a charity that was not really started by autistic individuals and perpetually has a lack of autistic representation on their boards. And then there's, of course, I think it's November, or is it September? I think it's November.
One of those two.
Right, which is Autism Acceptance and Inclusion Month. But there's also movements to make April Autism and Acceptance and Inclusion Month. So a large portion of us are very, very angry, and justifiably so, regarding many issues. I think that's probably why you haven't heard as much. There's much more controversy surrounding us than there is surrounding persons with Down syndrome.
But I just, you know, in general, it was like, we have a lot compared to, like, some other disabilities and other mental ailments. Awareness.
There's a lot of attention paid, yes.
Right. So, I forgot where we were at.
You were discussing the idea, you heard about Humans of New York.
Oh, yeah.
You started with the idea for Unashamed Voices.
Right.
How did you take that from the idea you had and turn it into something more tangible?
So, after I saw some of that book, and I was like, we should definitely do that. And honestly, it was very impulsive. But, like, I used a lot of how I came about it. And I used a lot of the tools that I learned from grad school on, like, making a consent form and how to, like, you know, approach people about stuff. Because I had to do, in grad school, I had to talk to a lot of autistic caregivers, neurotypicals who have autistic children, and ask them about, like, you know, their self-care routine, you know, and try to educate them about how to improve self-care, because, you know, you don't usually, you're too busy worried about your child on the spectrum that you don't really take care of yourself, and then that kind of affects how you take care of the children later on, because, you know, you're worn out, that, you know, you don't get to see the big milestones, or you don't get to see, like, the happy moments because you're so burnt out. So that's why I was trying to educate them about that, my little internship project. So I kind of had experience of, like, just approaching people, and I had some experience of writing consent forms and all that. So I used some of that knowledge. The biggest hurdle was at first was finding autistic adults. Because if you go to Facebook and write autism in groups, there's so many parent ones. Like, parent support group, autistic moms group, all that. But there's little, you know, there was very few and far between of just like autistic groups for people who are actually on the spectrum, you know, exclusively for them, or like, you know, and I even would try to go join some Facebook groups, and I would say like, you know, they ask me why you wouldn't join it, I would write, oh, I'm an autistic adult and I want to meet other people, and then I had people like some of the moderators messaging me and saying, well, you're not a parent with an autistic child, so we don't want you to join. So go somewhere else. And I'd ask them, okay, well, can you suggest me where I can go? They go, no. Have fun. Looking for places, though.
When did you kind of create the blog and start pushing your call for Autistic Voices out there?
I started the blog, like, it is already, like, a little bit about, like, originally a blog that, like, just about my life. And it had me, like, 50 likes on it. And then I was like, okay. So then when I started the call for it, I said, put under my blog, under maintenance. Going to redo this. And then I joined a bunch of autistic groups, and I would say, hey, I have this great idea where we find some autistic adults and autistic adolescents, and we interview them to hear their, you know, aspects of autism, you know, their life on the spectrum. Because, like, I feel like we don't get that especially. You know, I always say, like, you know, you Google autism and there's so many stuff about autistic moms or autistic children, but you don't hear, like, you know, what happens when you turn into a teenager? What happens when you turn into an adult? There's not much there. So I would join autism groups and say that and saying, I want to interview the autistic adults and adolescents and let's talk about our perspective. Because I don't feel like I'm, you know, being represented. It's like, you know what? I exist and I'm an autistic adult. So I want more information on this. I want more research. And I want more, you know, hear more people's stories about it. And, you know, maybe I can learn more about autism from hearing other people's stories. And maybe other people can learn more about it from themselves. And you know what? That'd be also great for caregivers because they can also learn from us. Instead of learning from, like, what other people say about us.
Or as you said when you were in college, learning it from a book.
Right. So I was like I wanted to do this. So I was like, let's do this. And I just make a little poster about that. And then it took me a while to get people to, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do this. So then I started just kind of building up that.
I noticed that your responses, at first you kind of had, it was slow going to get people to answer the questions, but then it's, over time, in less than a year, you've had a lot of people, their profiles have been posted about themselves.
Right.
And that seems to be growing very quickly.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, in 2 weeks, I got, like, 2,000 followers. I would, like, get, like, 500 followers within 2 days, and I was like, what am I doing that's changed? What? I haven't changed anything. What am I doing right? And then so I was like, well, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and try to observe this. Because, like, regardless of how it's, you know, getting rapidly wild, I still want the main concept of hearing people's stories, you know. Let's just go with this. It's like, it's amazing that it's growing this fast. And a little kind of scared a little bit just because I was not prepared for that. Because it took me, like, 4 months to get, like, 1,000. And then by the 5th month, I got 2,000 in 2 weeks. I was like, where did that come from? Don't know. Still don't know. But
I imagine it's been quite a bit of work processing those profiles.
Right.
All the questions and everything.
Right.
Do you have any particular individuals that you remember kind of stick out in your mind, stories that really kind of you felt or had a profound feeling?
I feel like everyone's story has, like, a profound feeling just because, you know, everyone is, you know, revealing their identity, like, you know, hey, I'm autistic, and revealing, like, their accomplishments, their hardships, and just talking about their life story, which I feel like that's hard to do, especially on a platform, like, you know, where anyone can see it. That's a little bit intimidating. And then, like, me, is like, I felt like I made a questionnaire for some of the people. Because, I felt like, hey, I want to hear your life story. Some people were like, what do you want to know about it? Like, I was diagnosed this. I like the color blue. And I like Slinkies, And I was like, here, let's talk more about, like, I make a questionnaire, like a roadmap a little bit. Where I ask, okay, when were you diagnosed? What's something you would tell people, neurotypicals, about autism? What would something you want to tell people who are autistic, Let me, like, learn more about your story. Like, tell me, like, some of your obstacles and how you went through that. What do you do for a living, Tell me something, like, fun about you. Some quirky fact. And it's, like, I want to hear more about you. Because I understand, like, it's overwhelming to go up on stage in front of, like, 10 people. And just talk about your life story. But now you're going to go, this project could go global for all I know. And that's scary. So I think that takes a lot of courage and bravery. So I applaud for people for that.
So was there anything that you, in this project, that specifically when you went through these profiles for these questions, was there anything you learned or that shocked you? Anything that you weren't aware of before that you gained from this project?
I definitely learned a lot about myself. I did not know that it's a common factor, for instance, that people who are autistic don't know their own volume tone. Like, I don't know my volume tone right now. I don't know if I'm, like, yelling, like, really shouting really loud, or if I'm, like, really low. And I learned that a lot of people on the spectrum have that problem too. I just thought I was a weirdo who didn't know that. I didn't really ever thought, maybe it's autism. But I was like, so when I would talk to people about that, they would tell you, that's one of their quirks. And I was like, I have that quirk. I'm not so crazy. Or another one I learned was, like, I wear a lot of black clothes. I have a lot of black and gray clothes because I don't like being the center of attention. But yet, my favorite color is lime green because it's so obnoxious in your face color. So I have a lot of lime green accessories on my house. Like, my phone case is lime green, and I have some desk that's lime green. Just like a highlighter lime green, like that bright. And eye gouging and annoying. And apparently, a lot of people, I thought, it's just probably like a favorite color thing, totally typical. But apparently, I talked to other people who are autistic, and there was, like, a girl I met who was like, she only wears yellow. That's all she will wear. And I was like, okay, that's unique. And there's another person I talked to who's like, I wear only black, but I have, like, all these, like, red accessories. There's, like, little gadgets. And, like, just because, like, it makes me feel better about myself. So this color thing is not just, like, 'cause we're weird. Like, I'm just not just, like, a weird person who just likes this color. So this is not, like, I figured, like, it was a neurotypical thing. Like, like, everyone did it. Or something. It's like, I just don't feel comfortable wearing the color white. I just feel weird. But then I was like, other people were talking about, how the colors affect them. In that way. And I was like, okay. So this is definitely an autistic thing, because people are definitely describing how I do this. So maybe I'm not that weird after all.
So when as the project has grown, I've also seen that you've had to put out some guidelines. For example, you have a specific age range for anyone who wants to submit. What's the age range? Was it 18 to?
I did 14 to until you're dead.
Okay.
Just because, like, I understand, like, a lot of people are aging out of the system. A lot of facilities stop at age 18. They're like, oh, you're 18, well, just like a number typical, get out. For accommodations and all that. And you still don't hear a lot of, like, it's predominantly, when you look at, research and text, it's kids of autism. Or children with autism. Or autistic child. You don't hear a lot of adolescent stuff either. It's compared to adults, there's more of it, but not by much, which is kind of sad as well. And then it's like, I figured if I do teenagers too, then we can kind of like see how it transitions into different differences in adulthood. Because we already know a lot in comparison about children and autism, but we don't really know much about the transitioning from teenagers, children to teenagers, or teenagers to adulthood. So maybe if we combine that, we can learn more about it as well.
I assume that the majority of your respondents live in the United States. Is that correct?
That I've actually not determined, because I lied to my profile on Alison Knight, and it says I'm from the UK, because I wanted, I was like, everyone says like, I believe it's 1 in 46, or is it now 1 in 50 something?
1 in 46.
1 in 46 are people who are autistic. And now I was like, okay, well, where are we? I met a lot of people who are autistic, in the United States, and I was like, what about other countries? So I would join, there's a lot of Facebook groups. They're like autism groups exclusively in the UK. So I signed up for the UK, and just so they would let me add me in there. Because if I said in the United States, they would not let me in. They were saying, well, this is strictly for the United Kingdom because there's cultural differences.
And at that time, you didn't have Unashamed was not fully where it is right now. So
right.
You didn't have any street cred, so to speak.
Right. So, so I was like, okay, I get that, perspective. There is a lot of Facebook groups that say, it's universal, but it's predominantly United States. I get the exclusivity, but I also kind of wanted to prove to myself and to other people we are everywhere. So I would join those exclusive groups and just say, I'm from England. And then so they'll let me in, and then I would just, I would, put a poster up saying about, Unashamed Voices. And then there's some groups who are still like that, are exclusively for New Zealand.
No, I get it. I fully get it. What I also wanted to know is, speaking of kind of exclusions and restrictions, have you had a lot of parents of and siblings of, have you had a lot of those apply to try to be included in the project? And if you've had, what kind of the struggles have you faced trying to explain to them that this is specifically for autistic individuals?
A lot of caregivers. So I thought I made it, I guess it was really subtle at first when I first was doing the project. I didn't directly say this age range, but I thought, hey, this is for adults, and adolescents because we don't have our voices heard. I thought that kind of, on the spectrum, I thought that was kind of obvious. Hey, caregivers, full props to you. I know it's a tough job and all that, but I want to give the mic to these people. I didn't directly say that, but I figured they'd kind of get the hint. That's just my autism thinking,
And they didn't get the hint.
Right. So then I had a lot of people, they would do the paperwork, where, I explained the project to them more detailed, and they would sign the consent form, saying, yeah, I'm not going to sue you if you share my story or anything like that. Then when I came to, talk to them, hear about the story, they're like, oh, well, my kid's, 5 years old on the spectrum. I just went through this hour-long process with you explaining all this, and now you're telling me this? So I was really frustrating because I was how to tell them nicely, go away. Awesome that you want to talk about it and bring awareness about your child and, autism awareness and all that. That is awesome of you. But I want to create something strictly for adolescents and adults because I don't feel like we have enough of that. And hey, I'm glad you're open about talk about your kid's life and all that, but I want your kid to be able to talk about, their point of view. Because, you talking about it is like another textbook saying from another person, neurotypical's point of view. Which is great, for your, proud of you for, having the courage to do that. But I want a little bit less than that. I want to have a platform for us adults and not, adolescents.
How was the reaction whenever you would try to diplomatically get this across?
I was not the best person because I am autistic. I'll play that card and say that I'm not the best with communication sometimes. So I would at first be like, oh, your kid's autistic. I'm going to go silent and not talk to you and ghost you because I don't know how to politely tell you to go away.
So they would complete the process, but they wouldn't tell you
Well,
it was
they
your kid.
Right, like, well, they tell me, like, okay, here, let's hear your story. And like, oh, well, it's my kid. And I say, oh, this project's for adults and adolescents. And then they're like, well, I want to talk about my kid. So can I talk about my kid right now? And I would just go silent.
Because you've described exactly what the project is, and they clearly are trying to tell you how the project should run. So
and
I don't think you've ghosted them in that regard. I think it's just it's hard to craft a response that says no. I mean, to try and describe it diplomatically and just say no, this is not for you. This is not even for your kid because your kid's 5 years old. It's for it says it right on the tin. This is for adolescents and adults.
Right. Well, I just didn't really know how to say diplomatically a nice response, and I already have like 10 other people waiting in line who were like, who are adults or like, at teenagers who are wanting to talk to me. My inbox is already clogged. So I don't really know, A, how to tell you nicely, again, that's not for you. But hey, I'm glad you're wanting to do this, for your child and all that.
I think you honestly did. I mean, if you tell them once and they don't listen, then at some point it kind of wears thin. I mean, you can reach across the table, but you shouldn't be having to fall out of your chair in order to do it.
Right, but I'm just a nice person.
True. I'm sure it's very difficult though to deal with that and to try and keep everything going.
Right.
And deal with that. So, but speaking of platforms, I wanted you to discuss the Be Louder and Be Prouder Talent Quirk show.
Okay, so it was my idea to have, I noticed like a lot of people, autistic people, we're kind of like segregating ourselves within our community when I believe we should really all stick together with a common goal. I understand I fully understand, the whole anti-autism speaks. I understand not to light it up blue. But now I hear people saying, oh, light it up red. I hear people say, light it up gold. And it's like, let's choose a color unitedly instead of saying, oh, you united gold. Why didn't I red? How dare you? And, not be friends with those people again. Or some people are like, I want high functioning or low functioning. And some people are saying, I don't want those at all. Which I get both perspectives. I think we're privileged right now to be able to argue about this little argument when we have people who don't even know the word autism means. Let's try to have some kind of entertainment platform to agree on something and then build off from that.
So what exactly is the show? How does it kind of work? Is it physical location or... And how do you participate? Because it seems like it goes on for this entire week.
Right.
And so kind of how does this work?
So that was the hardest thing to explain on Facebook. Because Facebook is a strict, stubborn person thingy. Technology who kept fighting me. So what I wanted to do was have a talent quirk show where person can submit their blog, their podcast, a piece of artwork, show me something that you really are passionate about, where's your special interest. If you collect coins, I want to see a picture of that. That's pretty awesome. Or like I said earlier about the examples of people wearing nothing but yellow or something like that. I think that's pretty neat. I met people who are in a rock band, you don't associate that or think something like that, autism can go with that. because you're too focused on what autism is, did not really realize that, there's an individual in there. But we also have all these kind of quirks, and I think that's amazing. So, on the one hand, I was afraid, I don't want people to think, I'm bringing about the stereotype of Rain Man, who can count cards and all that. But at the same time, I was like, we're amazing people. And I'm going to showcase that. That our unique quirks, and maybe we can learn more about each other and learn more facts. Maybe I'll learn more about stamp collecting or something. That would be kind of cool. So I was like, I want to do that. So it's like, you can submit a photo, you can submit a video, or it can be, just give me a link to your blog or podcast or whatever. And then I just want it to person to be able to email me, which is at Alison@unashamedvoices.com, or just send it to me on Facebook or something. And then on April 2nd, I still haven't figured this out yet, but I want to individually post everyone's talent, and then have maybe kind of a poll or something where people can vote of which one they think is the best or something. Because I don't want to be the sole judge, because I don't want people to think I'm biased, because honestly, I'd probably let everyone win if I could, because I'm just not good at judging. So I want not, or I don't want my men to do it either, my administration team do it, because I don't want them to be biased. I was I want everyone to have a fair shot. So I don't want to be the sole judge, but at the same time I was I don't want to be a popular contest either. I wanted something special for April 2nd.
I mean, I think the idea is great. Is there anything special that Unashamed Voices is going to do separately aside from the Quirk Show? Are you going to feature any kind of profiles? Are you going to update some of the profiles with new questions that you've asked?
I have been updating that. I have been going to past people who have past participants and asking them hey, I've changed this. Do you want to do that? Some of them say yes. Some of them say no. So I do update that. As for other events or anything like that, I'm just going with the flow, man.
So long term, where would you like to see this project go? Would you like to go to various conferences and events?
Yes. I want to be Post Secret and Humans to be New York popular, but I don't know how to do that.
Well, it seems like you're off to a very good start in the number of followers you have and the number of participants you have. So
right.
Hopefully that will continue to grow.
Right.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about with the project in regards to kind of where it's going, what you've seen? Are you ever going to actually open it up to caregivers?
No.
Okay.
No.
Very, very strong no on that one. Hard no. Okay.
Because that's destroys the whole meaning behind my project. It's nope. So I'll allow the questions and answers part where a parent can ask a question to the autistic adults and to the, adolescents about their child, transitioning to teenagerhood or adulthood. I will allow that, or they want to hear our perspective on something in regards to autism. But as far as autism, a caregiver talking about their child, no, because I'm trying to stay away from that. I want the child to be able to speak for themselves and promote that teenagers and adults on spectrum exist. We don't just disappear. We don't grow out of it or anything like that. So I think I would diminish the whole purpose if I had neurotypical speak for us.
So for any autistics listening, first off, how can they contact you regarding the Unashamed Voices if they'd like to donate their stories?
You can email me at Alison@unashamedvoices.com, or you can message me on my Facebook page, unashamedvoices.com.
All right, we will include those. And then for the Be Louder and Be Prouder Talent Quirk Show, how can they participate in that? Is it the same process?
Basically. The only thing is Facebook kind of sucks, where if you send me a video from your phone to me on Facebook Messenger, I cannot transfer that video to anywhere else. I can only send that video to other people through Facebook Messenger, but I cannot put that on like a website, or I can't put that on a Facebook page or anything. I can only, do a giant email loop thing, which is, defeats the purpose. So, all technology in the world, I've had several technology geeks help me figure that out. They said very, very incredibly hard to do that, if possible. It's just easier not to do that. So just have a mobile phone, a video, please upload it to YouTube or somehow use another app and like email it to me or something. I just can't.
Could they post it in the discussion on the event?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will include the links for those, and
right. It's just I can't transfer
Gotcha.
Messenger on Facebook. I've tried.
Sure. No, I fully get it. Fully understand. So we'll post those links up for anybody who wants to contribute on both of those.
Right.
And hopefully you will see a lot more of those in the coming days, and have a really healthy number of people who are contributing. So if any autistics want to, the links will be listed in the description of this show. Thank you again for joining us today, Allison.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Leo Jones, and this has been Neurologic. Neurologic is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. To view a copy of this license, visit creativecommons.org/licenses/by-nc-nd/4.0 or send the letter to Creative Commons, P.O. Box 1866, Mountain View, California 94042, USA. Neurologic uses the song Furious Freak, created by Kevin MacLeod, for its intro and outro music. Visit him at incompetech.com. Furious Freak is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license, creativecommons.org/licenses/by/3.0. You can reach Leo Jones and Neurologic by email at neurologicpodcast@gmail.com.